So today, the top 10 SMG players in Call of Duty, the 10 best players with an SMG in their hands in the Call of Duty League. We have a ton to talk about today, of course, sifting through all of these guys and talking about the pros and cons, things that they bring to the table as great players in the Call of Duty League. Of course, there are so many aspects that separate these guys and so many nitpicking aspects that you can go through, talk about what these guys bring to the table. But the one thing that I can for sure tell you is that it's going to get controversial, it's going to get spicy, it's going to get interesting, and it is definitely going to be a good time. So of course, smash the notification bell down below. YouTube can be a little bit weird with the upload schedules and notifying people of uploads. So make sure you never miss it by hitting the notification bell. But without further ado, guys, let's get right into this video. Let's go. So how we're ranking these guys is pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, it's just the question is, if I need to build a team and I need an SMG on this squad, who are the 10 guys I'm looking to fill that spot? So pretty straightforward. We're gonna go 10 through 1 here and talk about every single one. So man, at number 10, it gets real interesting real quick. We got Benjamin Vance at number 10 from the Toronto Ultra. So Vance has just been so reliable for the Ultra across all 3 game modes so far this year, especially recently. So realistically, when I'm talking about some stats here or using a lot of these examples, generally I'm considering the more recent stuff like season 2 or stage 2 or stage 3 of the CDL and talking about the performances more recently, because we're kind of looking forward and at least a little bit projecting about the top 10 players right now heading into this next tournament or this next weekend. And so it can be a little bit difficult, but Vance, again, the balance across the game mode is what you have to focus on here. He has no weak point in his game across S&D, hardpoint, and control. He's been so reliable in all 3 modes. For example, since the start of stage 2, he has the 5th best SMG KD in control, the 7th best SMG KD in hardpoint, and again, like I said, just really reliable across all 3 game modes. When Toronto's winning like they are, and the pieces they have on that team, they've just been really, really impressive, and Vance has been a big reason of that. Of course, we saw him absolutely dominate in the grand finals against Faze in the stage 2 major, and heading into stage 3 so far, he's been very, very good, and Toronto keeps on rolling, and Vance is a big part of that. He's been very, very solid so far for Toronto, and at number 10 here on our list. Let's keep going. So at number 9, it gets even more interesting. It gets a little bit more spicy. We have Scump at number 9. And why it's so difficult to rate Scump right now or put him in a spot right now is because of the drastic differences in performance in search and destroy versus respawns right now for Scump. You've seen incredible plays in S&D across the board this season, especially since the start of stage 2 for OpTic and the improvement that OpTic's had in search and destroy, and he's been insanely good. And that's even backed up by the stats where he has the number 1 SMG KD since the start of stage 2 at a 1.39 in 13 maps played, and the 12th best of all players in first blood round percentage. So he gets a first blood in 14.9% of rounds, which is the 12th most often of all players in the CDL. So in search and destroy, he's been incredibly valuable, and we've seen that play out just time and time again these past few weeks inside of search and destroy. We even did a breakdown video of S&D pro strats that they've been using on Moscow and how pros use their strats to their advantage, and I highly recommend going and check out that video. But we highlighted some of OpTic's strats in that video and ways that they use Scump, of course, and he's just been great, man. I think all across the board, you really gotta be impressed with Scump inside of search and destroy. But then, you know, you look at control, you look at hardpoint, and there's some real questions there with right now the pacing that Scump has, where he's been a slower SMG but also not really converting the kills as often as you'd like to see. So far, I really do think there's been a little bit of a disconnect with how Scump and Envoy play together on the map, because Envoy likes to isolate himself, and so then you see Scump basically playing an entry for Dashy and for Formal so far this year, and that just hasn't played out very, very well for OpTic, especially recently inside of these respawns, especially inside of hardpoint. Like statistically, I mean, Scump's basically in a bottom 3rd KD in control, the 7th worst KD in hardpoints. Again, I probably need to preface this whole video saying that stats just aren't that meaningful, but it's more of just like a little bit of a context or a little peek into a player's situation at that point. A lot of times stats are more telling of a player's role on the team than necessarily about the actual individual performances. But it does just go to show that Scump right now isn't converting these kills inside of respawns, and that's been a problem for OpTic, and just really a lack of slaying across the map in winning spawns and winning the battle for rotations has been a struggle for them so far. There's definitely a disconnect there, so that's why otherwise, if Scump of course was playing better in respawns, he'd have to be higher up on this list, but that's why right now he's at 9. and I could probably see an argument for some people having him lower, but because of his absolute excellence inside of Search and Destroy right now, you gotta keep him up here, at least in the top 10 for sure. And of course, you have to trust his ability to clutch, his ability to make those big time plays. That matters as well in the rankings. So let's head on to number 8. Alrighty, so as you keep moving up this list, it just gets tougher and tougher to kind of sort these guys out and really pinpoint where these guys should be at in this list because of the different specialties that these guys bring to the table and the ways that they play, the team situations that they have right now. It gets tough, man. And that's why this is such a spicy, interesting video. So at number 8, we have a guy who came onto the scene this year and just fried in their first few matches. But since has kind of cooled down a little bit, sizzled out, and is now cruising. But we've seen the moments, the absolute clutch plays from Standy, who is at number 8. He's been awesome, man. And again, the clutch playability, especially on Raid, where we've seen many chances for Standy to go off and just play great. That is just by far his best map right now. Let's say, for example, in their match against Toronto this weekend, on that Raid hardpoint, Standy was the difference in that map on the rotations from P3 to P4, where he's just finding these kills, creating massive map control for Minnesota, finding the kills inside of Kitchen, and then getting streaks to basically end the map. Standy can make some massive plays for Minnesota. Right now, they're working through the growing pains, especially in respawns right now. And the S&Ds, again, he's been very inconsistent, where you see the moments of him being fantastic and then the moments where there's been big time struggles. And so that's why I would like to have him a little bit higher, but I just don't think I can reasonably have him higher because of the inconsistent struggles. And that's going to be a theme probably for these next few guys as well as we continue through this. But in Control, he's really continued to be really impressive, and that's backed up by the stats as well. He has the 3rd best SMG KD in Control since the start of Stage 2, a 1.11, and he's overall, I think, just been really impressive. You've seen those moments. Again, generally is on Raid, where he's just frying around basketball courts and just making massive impactful plays around the map to convert into wins in Control. Minnesota's definitely happy that they got him on their roster. So now at number 7, we kind of have like the anti-Scump, the guy who's been dominating inside of hardpoints, but really struggling inside of S&Ds. I'd imagine a lot of you guys know who I'm talking about here. It's the French phenom, it's Hydra, coming in for New York here at the beginning of Stage 3, and since he's joined inside of Hardpoint, he's been insanely impressive, just dominant as a whole. He is the #1 overall Hardpoint KD since joining the squad in that time. He has a 1.29 KD so far. Obviously, a little bit of a smaller sample size, so you'd imagine that the standard deviation kind of drops it down eventually, and he'll have some bad games here inside of Hardpoint, eventually. But the #12 overall kills per 10 minutes inside of Hardpoint as well, with a 22.9 average per kills in 10 minutes. Again, stats are just for the context, but you can go back and watch the Hardpoints, and again, the moments where he pops off, the ability for him to play cracked and really control parts of the map, like we've seen that on Garrison, we've seen that on Moscow, we've really seen it across all of the maps in Hardpoint so far that he's played. And the difference has been inside of Search and Destroy, though, he has really struggled. Maybe that's an issue just joining the squad, new to the squad. You need those S&D strats to get comfortable with how these guys play. Maybe it's a little bit different than what he was used to inside of the amateur scene, where he was still very solid in S&D, though, in the amateur scene. So that's why it's a little bit weird that he's been struggling so far in the CDL. He has a 0.62 S&D KD so far in his matches that he's played. Not good. Definitely been a struggle. And so once we see him start iron out the Control and the S&D, he'll fly up this list if he can continue to play it as well as he has been inside of Hardpoint. But there's just a lot to think about for him right now. Of course, still working on the communication. I think maybe that's where the S&D might start to break down a little bit. Where in Hardpoint, we'd heard how Clay said he can talk Call of Duty. He's fluent in Call of Duty, but maybe in Search and Destroy, where you need a little bit more of that communication, that's where the communication could start to break down. And as a whole, Hydra just felt a little bit uncomfortable flying into gunfights, trying to force it a little bit in Search and Destroy. I think he'll be fine and probably rebound pretty well here as we move through the year. But for now, we're going to leave Hydra at number 7. But man, the potential for Hydra is insane moving forward, and I'm excited to see what he can do in New York. So at number 6, we actually have Hydra's SMG duo. Asim is at number 6. And so what's interesting here and why I have him above Hydra is because of the season-long consistency that we've seen from him as a player. Again, you're still really impressed by the playmaking ability that he has, but again, what everyone highlights is his ability to push the pace, really put pressure on the opposing team, make the dirty plays, hit those rotations, really secure spawns, and he's really, really good at doing those things around the map. And you even see that in the stats as well, again, where he has the 4th overall highest kills per 10 minutes in hardpoint at 23.9. He has the 5th most damage per 10 minutes in control as well for SMGs at nearly about 4,000. And overall, I think just across all 3 game modes, you have to be really, really impressed with Asim throughout the whole season, game in, game out. There's been very few series where he's fully struggled all the way through, and generally he's making highlight worthy plays across the map consistently. And man, Asim, he's a guy who I came in really low on this year, and he's continued to surprise me and impress me. And of course with Asim as well, you love the energy that he brings map in and map out, and you want that on your squad when you're building a team. He's such an encouraging, positive guy, and you compare that with his consistency across all 3 game modes, his communication, his ability to really be a great teammate. All of that combined makes him an awesome player. And man, that's why I would just absolutely want to have him on my team, and why he's a valuable asset to have on any team, and that's why he's at number 6. So at number 5, we have probably the most difficult guy to rate out of probably any of the SMGs so far this year, because we know the ceiling that this guy has. We know the pop-off potential that he has. Of course, he was the MVP in Modern Warfare, and that's Shotzzy. This dude is absolutely insane. He's a freak around the map. And again, this year, the pacing has been an issue, of course, with Dallas dropping Hook now. There's just been a lot of question marks about what this Dallas squad is looking like and how Shotzzy could play. We had been seeing significant improvement from Shotzzy across all 3 game modes, really leading up to when Hook got dropped. Then you're bringing in Fellow. It's a little bit of a change of pace, playing with now Illy on the SMG. And so there are a little bit more question marks now with how Shotzzy could play. But at the end of the day, if I was building a team and I could choose to have Shotzzy on this squad, I would want Shotzzy on the squad. And he has been awesome as a whole. And you look at across, again, the balance across the game modes is important, and he's really been solid in all of the game modes. And we saw like huge improvement in Search and Destroy from the beginning of the year, where he was basically getting first blooded like none other. And now we've seen a lot more patient Shotzzy playing with his team significantly more effectively now. The trajectory for Shotzzy is continually up, and I would imagine as we continue to work through this year, he's just going to get better and better and continue to be the vintage Shotzzy that we are expecting to see map in and map out. He's just an absolute insane Call of Duty player, and that's why he's at number 5. Now up to number 4, and basically the theme for all of these top few SMGs is playmaking ability. You're looking for the guy to get that 2-piece when it's unexpected, the 3-piece when you never would have guessed that it's coming through. And that's what these guys at the top do insanely well. This player at number 4, though, he's known for his balanced Call of Duty, his ability in all 3 game modes, his ability to make those dirty plays, to hit those rotations, to play for the information, and that's Envoy. We know how good Envoy can be. We saw him all of Modern Warfare being incredible, and so far this year, it's been an interesting road for Envoy, where at the beginning of the year, we saw him dominate inside of Control. So far this year, the narrative has kind of shifted, where Control has been a little bit more of a struggle for him, I think, in a slaying category, where he's still really, really good at playing those dirty, ratty routes, playing the weird angles and finding the kills when you need him to. But it hasn't translated as well, especially as teams have gotten better countering OpTic. And it's just overall been tough for OpTic when they're playing a map not named Raid, and that's definitely translated to Envoy as well. Like, Envoy still pushes the pace very, very well inside of hard points, and you still want, like I said, Scump to kind of up that as well and match his pace. And we talked a lot about on the channel, whether it's breakdown videos, tips videos, on the podcast, whatever it is, we talked a lot about Envoy, and where though he excels at being the lone wolf and playing like the flank or playing for that weird route, sometimes he overdoes it and he gets away from his teammates and almost prioritizes being alone instead of playing with his teammates, and that's definitely cost them at times. We're still looking for Envoy to find that level of consistency, and that's obviously the word you're always looking for with teams, is the consistency, map in and map out, which is tough to do, especially right now when the league is as talented as it is. And at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I think Envoy is an incredibly good Call of Duty player and still a very good Black Ops Cold War player, and you only expect that he's going to continue to improve as well as OpTic refines their hardpoint and their control these upcoming few weeks, leading into stage 4 and the potential of land coming as well. So as a whole, I love Envoy. I think he's a great player. And of course, that's just why he's at number 4. So now at number 3 is the main SMG for debatably the best team in the Call of Duty League right now, and that's CleanX for the Toronto Ultra. And again, when you're circling CleanX's stats or his skills in Call of Duty, you've got a highlight, circle, triple circle, the playmaking ability. He pops off a 2-piece or a 3-piece as often as anyone in the CDL. He pushes the pace. He's a top 10 in kills per 10 minutes inside of hardpoint and control. He's very, very good in respawn and insertion destroy. Man, especially if you're playing raid, this dude is dangerous. He finds those kills. He plays off of Bance and plays off of Cammy and Insight insanely well. He's not afraid to push any line of sight. He'll challenge anyone. And so that ability to push the pace and really find those big time plays is what separates CleanX. And when Toronto's winning and playing as well as they are right now, you have to reward that and really respect that from CleanX as one of the best SMGs in the game right now. He has been awesome. And of course, we saw the insane plays that he made in the stage 2 major against Faze. That's only continued as they've only dropped 1 map so far in stage 3 against 4 really solid teams, and CleanX is a massive part of that as well. He's just been awesome, man. So here we are, we're here to the top 2, and shocker, it's the 2 guys that we've talked about day in and day out, month in and month out for the past basically 2 years now since they've joined the league in Black Ops 4, and they're on, again, one of the top 2 teams in the league, debatably, whether you like Faze, whether you like the Ultra. Simp and Abezy, ironically, stand tall amongst the rest. They are head and shoulders the 2 best SMGs in the CDL right now, the tiny terrors. And man, especially inside of respawns, these guys have continued to be unbelievable. Obviously, the past maybe 2 weeks, Faze has had, shown signs of struggle, but at the end of the day, the individual talent between Simp and Abezy is just undeniable. They are unreal. So at number 2, I have Abezy. At number 1, we got Simp. And let's talk about Abezy real quick off the rip. So he has the number 3 overall damage per 10 minutes in control, the number 2 overall kills per 10 minutes in control, and then in hardpoint, the number 4 overall KD, the number 2 overall kills per 10 minutes in hardpoint at 24.3. Again, the statistics all point to Abezy being absolutely insane, and it same goes for Simp when you're looking at all these respawn stats, where he has the number 1 overall hardpoint KD, the number 8 overall hardpoint kills per 10 minutes, control, you have the number 1 overall SMG KD in control at a 1.21, the number 2 overall damage per 10 minutes in control, and the number 1 overall kills per 10 minutes in control. Simp has been insane just every single map, it seems like, and when he's not, Abezy is, or Cellium is. Basically, Faze has just been insane. And even though they got pushed to a map 5 these last 2 series, and they definitely aren't as dominant as they were during stage 2, of course, at the end of the day, the individual talent, which is what we're talking about today, Simp and Abezy are unbelievable. And even though there's been some S&D problems lately, you still have to highlight Abezy's ability to find first bloods, which hasn't been as effective this year as it was last year, where he was, far and away the best at finding those first bloods. The past, basically since the start or the middle of stage 2, the S&Ds have been a little bit of a question mark for Faze, but I think everyone can assume that they're going to figure that out as they brought in Tupac, Thug Lord to kind of come in as an S&D analyst. You really do trust Simp and Abezy across all 3 game modes to make the plays when it matters the most. And like I said, when it comes down to playmaking ability, your ability across all 3 game modes, the consistency map in and map out, and then the upside slaying potential, Simp and Abezy have it all, and especially Simp when you look across the balanced game modes and the upside in slaying. It's unreal. And I could probably talk about these guys just all video long about how good these guys are, but at some point we got to cut it off here and stop oozing over these guys. But man, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. This got really, really controversial. Of course, the honorable mentions we got to talk about real quick. So of course, Hook is a guy that you got to at least mention in this video. Right now, he's not in a starting lineup, and it's looking like he might not be in a starting lineup for at least a little while longer, probably the next few weeks, maybe into stage 4, we'll see. He's of course a fantastic player, and again, he was a guy who across all 3 game modes was very, very good, and for Dallas to bench him, that's why it was so shocking in the first place. The other guy that I wanted to mention was Vivid, who's also currently not in a starting lineup because Chino came in to replace him for LAG, but I really do think Vivid's a fantastic SMG, and in the right situation, he can excel and has the upside to be a top 5, top 6 type guy, but he has to be in the right situation, have the right teammates around him, which was not the case there with LAG in that current roster. So those are the two guys who I really wanted to highlight. We've seen moments where like Attach, Priestahh have been very, very, very good this year. So you gotta at least mention them and give them some props. Illy, he's trying to find his way, you know, for Dallas. And there's a lot of other really good SMGs in the league as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, share the video if you guys really enjoyed it. Hit the notification bell, of course. A lot of you guys are not subscribed and or do not have the notifications turned on, so you miss these uploads when they go live. So we don't want to be having that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I'm your boy, Abezy, and guys, we will see you next time on the podcast tomorrow. I'm out.